that are registered under the Bahamian flag. Only a very small amount of Bahamians are employed. Maritime Matters.
And pleasant good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. And welcome to Maritime Matters. Whether you're listening via radio wave or 97.5 FM, via an internet radio app, or via cable Bahamas channel 951, or even via BTC Flow, TV channel 606. We appreciate you and we humbly welcome you to our show. We now encourage you to check out our YouTube page, actually, Maritime Matters Bahamas. Here you can listen into all of our previous shows at your own leisure. So feel free to hit us up on YouTube, Maritime Matters Bahamas, under YouTube search, and listen to any of our previous shows. Thank you very much. Again, pleasant good evening. I am Captain Glenn Bain. This is show number 26, people. Yeah, we're moving along. Yes, after 52 shows, that's a yay. And we're moving along nicely. Tonight we have a guest that runs one of the most critical organizations in this country, pertaining to the advancement of Bahamians in the international maritime spectrum. Tonight, we're going to delve deep into the inner works of the Bahamas Maritime Cadet Corps. Let's engage this discussion on how school kids are being exposed to the maritime arena at a very young stage of life, between grades 10 and 12, by way of classroom instructions and even practically sailing on board local vessels as apprentices. So let's do this, people. Let's engage this interesting undertaking, so be sure to stay tuned. Our sponsors for tonight's show are One-on-One Pharmacy. You know the deal on them. My good cousin Shantia and her mom Stephanie, who's my first cousin, two sister children, grew up in Roll Avenue together. They're the people that deals and runs One-on-One Pharmacy, with a slew of highly qualified technicians to get your pharmaceuticals out in a timely and friendly manner. So check them out. One-on-One Pharmacy. If you want to get them online, you can't get there, you're in a rush, just hit them up online, oneononepharmacy.com. They have the two locations, one on East Street South, the other one, Charles Sanders Highway. And then they got a third one coming on stream, people. Freeport, here they come. One-on-One Pharmacy. When you walk in the door, you'll be treated with the utmost royalty. Say hello to my good cousin Stephanie. And I think she going Freeport too, but she ain't want to go. Anyway, I shouldn't talk her business. But that's how we rolling, right, Steph? Thank you very much. We also are sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection. We provide a full slate of ISPS maritime security services. Those of you who know what that is, you know how we roll. Top Shots. We are thoroughly sponsored by Totally Secured Security and Investigation Services. They are headquartered in 8 Mile Rock, Grand Bahama. For all your security guard duties, call my good buddy Andrew Stirrup, 819-8944. He and his certified team will see you straight. So if you're getting beat up and the big brother can't help you, call Stirrup and he will, that's a black belt man. They'll sort that person right out and you wouldn't have nothing to worry about. That's Totally Secured Security, 819-8944. To the listening audience out there, it will be remiss of me to go any further without introducing my wonderful producer. So ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the insatiable, the man of the hour, the man with all the power. On the wheels of steel. He is fully able, quite capable. The one and only, Craig Gibson. And he says hello. All right. I didn't hear you all clapping. What's going on in there? You're listening to Maritime Matters, people. On this show, we talk maritime. Maritime Matters as weekly at 19:30. And again, I can stop saying it after a while. 19:30 means 7:30 p.m. You got two 7:30s in the day. You got 0730 in the morning, and you got 19:30 in the evening. So once I say 7:30, you ain't know which one I mean. But if I say 19:30, then you know what time it is. That's 7:30 in the evening. Every Tuesday night here on Love 97. The purpose of Maritime Matters is to highlight persons that made significant contributions to the maritime sector in the Bahamas and to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities in the maritime sector. Halfway through the show, we'll open the phone lines. The number to call, 326-8255. Again, if you want to reach us, and please feel free to reach us, engage in our discussion, 326-8255. We highlight our outstanding maritime heroes of the past. We say farewell. We say may their souls continue to rest in peace. Leading that core would be 5 listed here: HMBS Flamingo champion skipper, senior commander Amos Roll, one of my major mentors from the time I was a teenager. I didn't even quite make it to 20 yet, and Amos was the Fuhrer was one of my mentors. Later on in life, I met the great controller, port controller extraordinaire, Mr. Leon Flowers. That's the man that took Prince George Wharf from where it was back in the day to being a little small dock to being a wharf with many berths that can berth many cruise ships. That's the one who used to walk in the office of what's the name of the gentleman that runs Carnival Cruises? Mickey Harrison. Mr. Leon Flowers used to walk in his office unannounced because they were just close friends. Mr. Leon Flowers could have sent me or you on a cruise and don't pay a dime because Mickey would fix him up. So we can't forget the extraordinary Mr. Leon Flowers, who was the port control. He worked there for 50 years plus. And, he was, in my opinion, the most impacting port controller yet. And we have, of course, the one and only, the sloop sailing pioneer of the Bahamas. Bar none, second to none. I think he went R&B, I think he's a pacer. Second to none. The legendary Captain Rolly Gray. Boy, we need to clap our hands. Rolly Gray about, he say. And then, last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, we got 2 of the men that made history. And today, that record still stands because they got a gold medal in a maritime Olympic event. And, one time ago, we say sailing should be our national sport. But Sir Derwent Knowles and Cecil Cook, they took it all the way to gold. They beat everybody else in the world in sailing. That was back in the day, but I see we got some young people coming up now, so we may be able to repeat that someday soon. Those are our champions in maritime, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, we got a lot of people that could be added to that list, but they just one little half a step below. And if we start opening up that, we'll be talking all night about champions in maritime. Our current maritime affairs tonight, say current matters in maritime. I'm going to keep it home tonight because, we over the last week, we had 2 big tragedies. We had the tragedy at sea, and then we had the oil spill at sea. Tragedy at sea, most impacting, 17 lives confirmed dead. At least 15 missing. Are we going to find them? Boy, it doesn't seem likely. After all these days, the chances just get less and less. And that's why they call off the search. Because chances of finding them alive after so much time. They were like 7-8 miles out to sea. There was no land, nothing for them to see, nothing for them to hold on to. So, we'll have to see how it goes. But we're going to hope on, and hopefully at the end of the day, we would have some good news out of that. But we look at this tragedy, and we have to wonder, will this sort of senseless deaths ever stop? Can the authorities curtail such practices? What are the repercussions, or what will be the repercussions of these sort of massacres? You cannot categorize it as a murder because obviously nobody going to take a boat to sea with the intent of wanting to sink and lose lives. But boy, we got to look at this closely. These are real situations. Yes, there's money involved and all the rest of that stuff, but people are dying. We don't need it. I recall a couple of months back, earlier this year, when a vessel, a small boat, very similar, well, this one probably is a little smaller, left Bimini and was headed to Florida, Miami in particular. And before they got there, the boat turned over. And out of the 40 persons on board, one person was found alive. And this gentleman was holding on to the rope because the bow was still pointing out of the water. So he was just holding on to the boat. And it was like a day and a half later when they found him. So, if the water was a little more cold, then perhaps hypothermia would have kicked in and he would also be dead. He wouldn't have been able to hold on no longer. But obviously he was able to make it, and he was able to tell the story as to how many people was on board and what happened. And now we see another one here just off Nassau. And if you're going from Nassau to Miami, we can talk about this some more, but you're dealing with ocean people. Well, of course, you could cross the banks, and most likely they were going to Northwest Channel Light. I don't think they was going around Stirrup Key and taking the ocean all the way to Great Isaacs all the way across. I think they were going, in my opinion, and this is what I would have done if I was taking a boat, and I didn't tell you I could take no boat with no people or smuggling drugs or anything like that. But if I was taking a boat toward the U.S. from Nassau, and it's a small boat like that, I would want to go across the bank. So I would go to Northwest Light, then we go to Russell Beacon, all the way to Sylvia Beacon, come along Cat Key, come through Gun Key Cut, and shoot across to Miami. That's the route I would have taken. That's the route, even in the defense force, we would have taken to go to Bimini. So that's where I'm getting that from. But, this is serious business, and we really want to have a close look at trying to curtail some of these practices. It may be totally out of our hands once money is involved. But we want to speak to the conscience of those people that are doing this just for the money. Because why else would you do it? It has to be for the money. Our second maritime matter for the night, again local. We got a lot going on the international maritime feed. We wouldn't have time to go through them tonight. So let's stick to what's going on now. We had an oil spill in Georgetown Harbor last week. And it was rather massive. It happened overnight. There was over 35,000 gallons of diesel fuel unaccounted for that obviously we saw the next day that the spill was in the water. And we asked, why do we have these type of incidents? In this day and time, with all the technology and all the rest of that good stuff, why something like this can happen? And I can tell you, most of these things happen because of human error or human negligence. I don't know about this situation because I ain't getting in the business, right? But if you want to know why it happened, in most of the cases, because of the technology today, the technology really is in place to ensure that this type of thing does not readily happen. But you will have accidents, and this one happened to be, big 35,000 gallon spill, and thank goodness it's diesel. What else do we use in this country? We use diesel, we use gasoline, we use jet fuel, we use kerosene. I don't think we really ship anything else within this country. We're talking about heavy oils like fuel oil and crude oil and that type of thing. We basically store them. And only 2 facilities in the Bahamas where they quite technically are stored. And why do they store crude oil? Why do they store fuel oil? Because people are trading them on the market. And, if you got hundreds of thousands of crude oil in storage today, and that costs $200 a gallon, come tomorrow, that may cost $500 a gallon. So you trade it and make some money. And of course, you could trade it and lose some money too because if the price drops. And that's why they're always storing these things, because they have nowhere really to keep them. So they create storages for them. And Buckeye, or Baco as we know it to be, is one of the largest storing facilities in this region where it comes to storage of crude oil and all the rest of that stuff. And of course, Equinor, South Riding Point. Well, of course, it's just a percentage of what is done by Buckeye, but it's the same basic type setup where they store heavy oils and light oils, and they store all kind of oils. So unless something happens with transactions at those two facilities, we would really not see spillage of heavy oils in Bahamian waters. Of course, unless it comes from the sinking or discharge of a passing by ship moving through the waters of the Bahamas. And then that's a whole next story we want to talk about someday. And I think next week may be the best time for us to address that. Because I can tell you next week we're going to have a very exciting guest again. We also have a situation of the damage that was done. Was that damage a major impact in Georgetown Harbor? We have a couple schools of thought on that. And without going through the you say and I say and all the rest of that, when you look at the grand scale of things, the damage was minimal. And anytime you have light, non-persistent oils spill, usually the damage, especially if it's at sea. Now, if you get on the land, you could have a little more. But at sea, come on, this thing spreads out and kind of evaporates because it's so light and thin, and it can be dealt with that way. But that heavy oil, that crude oil and that fuel oil or oil fuel, that's a totally different thing.
Bunker C.
Bunker C, that's it. That's what my guest's telling me before I bring him on. But don't worry, he's coming on in a minute. Well, were there spills of this sort in recent times? I don't recall any spills of this magnitude in the past, not in recent past, where we would actually see the next day a lot of the stuff in the water. So my answer would be, I can't recall any of it. But who knows? We may have small ones, but I think this one kind of get us wondering what if, and we're still wondering what if. But as we know now, after a day or two, it was all cleared away, and I don't think it had any significant impact per se as far as liabilities are concerned. I don't think it messed up nobody's property. I don't think so. And if there's something out there, then somebody need to bring it up so I could know about it. What might be the repercussions in this sort of incident? To have a repercussion, you gotta have damage. And as we said, there was no significant damage that we know of, right? Or that I know of. And my guest could chime in on this later on when I bring him in. Although we're coming to talk about other things, we're gonna really talk about, this sort of oil spill and that type of thing in the Bahamas, because he is indeed an extraordinary engineer, so he would know a lot about these type of things. And he's a man with a lot of vast maritime background. A lot he can teach even me. So we're going to hear what he has to say about this. I know he ain't come here for that, but boy, that happening and he in the chair. So we're going to get some of that tonight. We are talking maritime, people. You are listening to Maritime Matters. At this point, we move to our first break. And when we return, we will engage our special guest for the night. So please stay tuned. How is everything to get on?
Seeing pictures of the birds.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Welcome. Without further ado, I reserve no hesitation in introducing tonight's special guest. He hails all the way from the great city of Freeport. He might tell you from Nassau, but he hailed from Freeport. I ain't listening to that Nassau talk. He back in Nassau though. This guy, ladies and gentlemen, comes highly qualified as a SUNY graduate. What do you mean by SUNY? State University of New York, Maritime. He's a graduate from SUNY many, many years ago. So don't mind these young people coming up, oh, I've been to SUNY. They don't know. This man graduated from SUNY, and I don't want to tell you how long ago, because you might figure out what I did with this old man in the studio. But he ain't old, so can't talk all that, right? In the early years, and litany, he has a litany of maritime engagements thereafter. Yes, it's a fellow that, in the early stages of life, chose the maritime route. Fully poised for success, this brother waltzed his way to the mountaintop, wrestled down the Buddha Dean, and chewed on the betel nut. Brace yourself, people, for quite an interesting and informative maritime discussion tonight. I am honored to present to you my close friend and maritime partner, a marine engineer extraordinaire, Mr. Clayton Curtis. Brother Clayton, my friend, welcome to Maritime Matters.
Good evening, Glenn. Thank you very much, and good evening to your listening audience. One slight correction. I was bridge watch and not engineering, although I had some exposure in engineering.
Okay.
My license reads bridge watch.
Bridge watch keeping.
Rather than engineering.
So you're deck like me.
Yeah, I was a deck.
Okay, excellent. You're deck long before me, but you're deck like me. Yeah, deck officer. Beautiful. So, okay, where were you born? I know you wasn't born in Freeport.
No, I was a Camp Road boy.
You serious?
Yeah, I came from a very humble beginnings.
So you're born in Nassau?
No, let me correct that.
Uh-huh.
My recently departed brother George made it quite clear. We were not from Camp Road. That's big city compared to, we were on the inner street. We were St. James Road people.
Oh, St. James Road.
St. James
That's
Road.
where all my good friends from. You know, I went to see Gibson, and boy, let me tell you, St. James Road. All of my good friends, Perry, Minnis, and people like, well, Dale Tense and them days living on Camp Road. But I used to be in St. James Road with them. So I know St. James Road quite well. And if you're from St. James Road, that's the really deep inner part of Camp Road for real.
Yeah, my nibble string is buried under the tamarind tree in the back of our yard.
Wow.
And I had my social integration. It began at St. Margaret's Prep School, where coincidentally, I need to set the record straight now for everybody who was in the area at the time.
Yeah.
Carlton and I were not twins.
Oh, that's your brother?
My brother Carlton. Everybody thought Carlton and Clayton were twins.
Okay.
But no, I was 2 years old when our parents separated.
Okay.
And my father had a stroke of genius, simply put me in a school uniform and sent me to school with Carlton. I never did kindergarten and I never did class 1.
Oh, so Carlton is older than you?
And also deceased, but yeah, he was older than me. I'm the
Okay.
baby. Yeah.
Right, okay.
And there's a couple of years between us.
Right.
But not until it was time to write the common entrance exam. And Mr. Conniff said, well, they're not twins.
Mr. Conniff, you went to Palmdale Primary then?
Eastern Junior.
Eastern
Primary.
Junior. Well, they call it Palmdale Primary after
Eastern,
that.
I've been to Eastern Junior, pink and white.
Yeah, that was Palmdale Primary.
I've been to Eastern Junior.
I tell you, you're from Nassau. But anyway, I with you, Eastern Junior. Pink and white looking for fight, I remember.
No, red and white was looking for fight.
Oh, red and white. So with Touchberry, did the school right across the next side of the fence? Was that there when he was at
I know Eastern Junior and Eastern Senior.
Oh, okay.
I from St. James Road.
Right.
We only need to know what we need to know to get through the day.
Indeed.
And don't go up in other people's business and get up in their grits.
It's not to stay. Drink water and mind your business.
Oh.
Okay, I with you, sir. So, what about your family, though? Was it a family island your family's linked to? Or?
Yes, my father's from Rollville, Exuma.
Okay.
My grandfather was Abraham Curtis. My father was Michael Curtis Sr. And the Rolls and Curtises from Exuma on my mother's side.
Oh.
I'm sorry, my father's side. And my mother's a Moss from Crooked Island.
From which part of Crooked Island?
Don't look at me
Capital,
that-
Landreal Point? I don't know. Hey,
Don't look at me in that tone of voice. And more history, Bishop Alvin S. Moss
Right.
from the Church of God of Prophecy.
Okay.
My granduncle.
Right. Oh yeah, those Crooked Island people like Church of God. But you Catholic or Anglican? You're not a Church of God man.
I'm
eh?
Christian, but I practice the Anglican form of worship.
Right. Because I know you big in the Anglican church, especially with those choirs and stuff like that.
I was, I suppose, borrowed. I was going back and forth between the Baptist church with my father's roots, Pilgrim
Okay,
Baptist,
okay.
and the Church of God of Prophecy,
Right.
The Benabys and those guys, Nathaniel and Philip and Sheldon, those guys, all my cousins. Half the band at one time were my cousins.
So if you
I'd be
was in
between-
St. James Road, you was right next. You walked to church. Pilgrim was right there.
Yeah. Even when we moved out of St. James Road, I walked to
Still
Pilgrim.
had to
Still had to walk to Pilgrim.
Yeah. Okay.
And when
Well,
you-
all us had to do that back in the
When
day.
you go to Sunday school 3 o'clock,
You
then
walk in.
you stay for evening service.
Right.
But the late Mr. Philip Worrell said to me one time, he looked at me at a particular conference, and he says, "Oh, Brother Curtis, I'm so glad we thief you from them Baptists."
That's not nice. I'm a
Well,
Baptist,
true.
you know.
No, it was also truth. I was in high school. I hung out, I suppose, with the right or the wrong crowd. Cleophas Adderley, Victor Chandler, Jeff Lightbourne. We all sang in the high school choir.
Oh, okay.
And the late Marion St. George said, well, why don't you go along with them to the Cathedral Boys Choir?
Okay.
So she advised Mr. Potts that she had another boy to send.
Yeah.
And I went along to the Cathedral Boys Choir.
Wow.
And I saw Dean Weatherhead, shall I say, discipline
Okay.
one of the choir boys. And I said, if he lay his hand on Michael, baby, this church can get bust up. So I came out of the Cathedral Boys Choir. I was only there for a very, very short time.
Okay.
And I came out of the choir, but stayed in the Anglican Church.
So you like the Anglican Church as a result of going there to be in the choir?
Well, oh God, truth be told, I hope no priests are listening, but truth be told, the Anglicans were quite advantageous because you were in and out in an hour and a half. As opposed to the...
all day in the Baptist Church.
Oh, praise him. I always used to say in the Baptist church, I wonder if either God is asleep, not home, or why does it take so long to get God's attention?
That's time for the pastor to shine.
But truth be told, I realized the structure that was in the Anglican church, and they practice what most people probably don't hear the term much anymore, thematic worship.
Yeah.
In that the readings, the sermon, and the hymns would share one common central theme. And with the liturgical calendar being laid out the way it is, starting with the Advent season, and you're going through the life of Christ,
right?
I saw, again, more structure, and I was drawn to that.
So you like this Lent? What you given up for Lent?
The only thing I got to give up is being good, because I'm good year round. But
I have a friend who drinks Guinness, I mean, religiously. And one time he said he gave up Guinness for Lent. I ain't call his name, but everybody know he is, right? And
No, again, Lent is one of the penitential seasons, especially for preparation.
Right.
For the resurrection period. And with the penitential seasons of Advent and Lent, you've got lots of time for introspective analysis and soul searching and thinking and periods of preparation.
Okay.
There would have been no Easter without a Good Friday.
That's right. No Easter holidays. That wouldn't have been a good thing.
Well, but
that's what I want out of it.
I appreciate the structure, and
yes.
it has brought about a deeper spiritual meaning for me.
Beautiful.
And I just like the form. Oh, I didn't mention the music. I'm a pipe organ.
The Anglican music is better than the Baptist music?
Excuse me, pipe organ. You hear me say pipe. You hear me say pipe organ. Go with me to St. Agnes this coming Sunday evening for even song.
Okay. And I'll hear the pipe organ.
No, you could sit downstairs and get it. You could any service at St. Agnes.
But then some of the Baptist church get pipe organ too.
Yeah.
So the Baptist but Church of God, the Church of God get live band. The prophecy, mass band. You only have none of them in Anglican.
You need to see me do my. I got the prophecy step now. Don't forget.
Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Alvin S. was my granduncle.
Yes, you know what I'm talking about.
That was the thing, and my father was also a musician.
Oh, so you had it in your system.
I was raised in a very musical background, and again, I was fine living my life as a Baptist. And I got to put a plug in for my sister Carolyn, who had to be outside the cathedral church door when the 9 o'clock mass came out. Because Michael Curtis says, I don't care where you go or what you sing, but when I turn around the Baptist church, you better be there. So she had to drive that red Volkswagen, hightail it up Shirley Street, when Shirley Street was going the proper way, not the way going now.
Oh, well, it was going both ways.
Yeah, and when Shirley Street, she's hightailed it up Shirley Street into St. James Road, and just before the senior choir came out for the start of the morning worship at 11 o'clock, out of breath, I'd be sitting right where my father had an unobstructed view of me, because...
You had to make it.
Oh, yeah, of course. I couldn't go back to the Anglican church. Can't sing in that choir with the ruff round my neck and cassock and cotter and...
You had to get it right.
Looking quite British.
Indeed.
But of course.
So you did that, but the Anglican church lured you in based on their principles and concepts and all the rest of it. What lured you into Maritime?
That's a horse of a different color.
Indeed.
I was somewhat of an athlete when I was in high school.
You was a track athlete, or you
I
couldn't
don't
play volleyball?
I don't just run my mouth now.
Oh, you could run.
I ran the 1 and 2,
Oh, what high school you went to?
the government high.
You was a smart people, one of them smart people. You've been to the government high.
Yeah, what's now the
I
University of
failed a
Bahamas.
common entrance, so I can tell you,
So the
I
entrance
wasn't
was
smart
not
like
common.
that.
No,
Yeah.
I captained track and volleyball at
Volleyball too?
GHS.
But
and also
GHS ain't
played
about no
softball.
volleyball players.
Wait, stop, bro. Listen to me.
After
All I know, me and Poissy Camp. Now, Poissy's a pastor in Freeport now.
Ah.
Poissy and I were co-captains of the under-14 boys
Mm-hmm.
volleyball team. Yeah, we did beat SAC for the championship.
So you didn't play CC Sweeten then with check rolling and nobody can beat them.
we were in age groups Division A, Division B, Division C, or Division 1, Division 2, Division 3.
Oh, so you couldn't make the division with check rolling and Russia carried them to
I met Russia once we started playing Donald Davis. But
yeah, well, you can't do that with Russian crack out, right?
yeah, well, see, let's get back to how I got into the maritime thing.
Yes, sir.
Because you want to drag me out of government high. But while I was in government high, and strangely enough, remember Phil Robbins in the triple jump?
I know the name, Phil Robbins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Phil, I could never beat Phil.
Okay.
Whenever we jumped,
He was from Sackett. Where he was from?
GHS, man.
Oh, that's yours.
Boy used to win.
All right.
So he was from government high.
Yeah.
When we were in the same age group, I could never beat Phil, but he'd move up and leave me behind.
So you started winning.
And then I would win the division once he moved on.
Okay. All right.
Phil landed a track scholarship, and the coach who recruited him, Phil said, "Oh, this guy also
Just for long jump or
triple."
triple jump?
Yeah, as small as I am, I was a triple jumper and long jump too.
But this country always had good triple jumpers.
Good
yeah.
jumpers. And Philip said, "But this guy also triple jumps." The guy says, "Well, I only got one track scholarship this year,
Yeah, so you had to wait
but
1 year.
I'll have to wait a year." But Philip says he also runs. The guy says, "What runs?" I said, "Yeah, I do the 1 and 2. I only do
Oh, he's a sprinter?
the long and triple to get points."
Wow.
So, but I would win the long
Yeah.
and triple as well.
Okay.
And the guy says, "Well, if you can wait a year, I would come back and you and Philip can start winning some NC2As."
Right.
And I pictured Philip and I winning first, second in the Olympics.
Wow.
Because we were actually the best junior triple jumpers in the region.
Right.
And possibly the world at the time.
That's excellent.
And Philip went on to win the NCAAs, first Bahamian to win a Division I NCAA title.
That's excellent.
And the Montreal Olympics, he had 3 no jumps in the prelims. Ranked number 1 in the world at the time.
Oh, man.
And I said, "Oh, the gold medal was actually mine." But I was well on my way to using track, use a scholarship in track to
Right.
pay for my pre-med.
Right.
And I was planning to be a pediatric surgeon. God didn't give me small hands for nothing. I figured he gave me small hands to work on small bodies.
Indeed.
And I was well on my way to doing a General 6 at Government High for 1 year, then going off on the track scholarship, pre-med, going into medical school.
Okay.
When Navios Corporation, the building that's now Colina on Village Road, was where Navios Corporation was.
Oh, that's where Navios was.
And Navios
I heard so much about Navios.
They were the offshore division of U.S. Steel.
Okay.
And they were the marine offshore division of U.S. Steel.
Right.
And the late Dame Dr. Doris Johnson, on the floor of the Senate, was talking about multinational companies in the country who did not make a substantial enough contribution
To the country.
to the individuals or to the youth of the country.
Right.
And she named Navios.
Right. Wow.
So
So they had to do something.
quick, fast, and in a hurry. And the late Mr. Lionel Simonet, who just passed earlier this year, one of my mentors, along with Dudley Martinborough, who's still alive.
Dudley Martinborough.
And when you talk about people in the maritime industry, you better list him. And the late Mr. Clyde Bethel.
Mr. Clyde Bethel, I know him very well.
Dudley is one of my mentors. Dudley and Clyde. Dudley's my foster father.
There's a name you ain't called yet, but let me let you go
Along
on.
with, I better say good evening to Keith and Mabel Mason too, because they're my other Nassau parents.
Okay.
But
Beautiful people.
Clyde
Keith
Bethel,
Mason,
Clyde
good friend of
Bethel
mine.
and Dudley
Dudley
Martinborough were
Martinborough.
at Navios.
Right.
And the late Mr. Lionel Simonet was charged with going to all of the high schools and speaking with just the boys, because SUNY Maritime was all male at the time.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was.
Oh, I never knew. Well, there's some good history I get. Yeah, SUNY never used to take females.
I was the indoctrination officer for the first co-ed class.
Okay.
800 guys, 8 girls.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Okay.
They had a whole floor by themselves.
The girls.
The girls, 8 people. Anyhow, that's another story. But Mr. Lionel Simonet went on a recruiting drive, and I had absolutely no intention. And some people are going to cringe right now when they realize that Maritime was not my first, second, or third choice.
Wow.
But
it was a good opportunity.
I'm going to get to the opportunity in a minute. And Mr. Lionel Simonet, as he was making his rounds to the schools, when he got to our high school, asked if anybody knew anything about the maritime industry or had any interest in it. Fool, simple, crazy, stupid me. Put my hand up and says, well, my father's a truck driver and he works out on the docks and I see the ships coming and going all the time.
Right.
Write his name down, Mr. Clark.
That's interest, yes.
And the gentleman who was with him, Clarky, wrote my name down. And that was all I said in the meeting.
Wow.
And the names of individuals who'd expressed an interest of all the schools, I think there were a total of about 25 young men. And they went through the application form. And the same guy whose father was a truck driver, who was always on the docks watching the ships coming and going,
it's now going off.
His application was not there.
Oh.
And another, I would say divine providence, I wouldn't say a stroke of bad luck or good luck.
Yeah.
But the same gentleman, Mr. Clark, attended the same church as me, that same Pilgrim
Mr.
Baptist.
Anglican? Oh, I was going to say that.
Pilgrim
Yeah, that's a
Baptist.
good, and you going to leave Baptist?
Listen to me. And Clark said, oh, don't worry, I know his daddy and I know where he lives.
Oh, boy. So you could...
So they called the late Mrs. Anatole Rogers, and I owe her a serious debt of gratitude.
Wow.
She was my Form 1 homeroom teacher.
But you was backing up to some good people.
Oh, you think I'm here by accident or chance?
I had
Not today.
I know now.
And Mrs. Rogers kept me sort of in line. I was always accountable to her for something while I was in government high.
Okay.
And Clarky went to Mrs. Rogers' office, and they had taken a small slip of paper, wrote my name on the paper, and paper clipped it to the application form.
Wow.
And Mr. Clark went and says, excuse me, Mrs. Rogers, we never got the application we left for Clayton Curtis. And Mrs. Rogers called out to the secretary, and she says, yeah, Mrs. Rogers, it's right here on my desk. Talk about good people.
Yeah.
Claire Smith Hepburn.
Oh, my good friend Claire Hepburn and Bones Hepburn.
Claire was my O-level history teacher.
Okay.
And I was in history class, Tudors and Stuarts, Henry VIII, and the King James Version of the Bible, and the whole 9 yards.
Yes, sir.
And Mrs. Rogers had her secretary come and pull me out of Mrs. Smith's class. And when Anadole Rogers takes her glasses off and bats her eyes at you, you know you're in trouble.
Don't bother with her.
And she said, well, Clayton, we don't have your application form. I said, excuse me, Mrs. Rogers, what application form? She says, the one that Navios left for you. Oh, Mrs. Rogers. It's so, of course, I just retrieved it from the secretary's desk.
Right.
And I had it discreetly hidden behind my leg. And she says, where is that? I said, well, Mrs. Rogers, it's at home. Have you completed it? Yes, ma'am, I've completed it. And she says, well, go and get it.
Oh.
I didn't live around the corner from the school.
From GHS?
Yeah.
Oh, that's when it was...
I know, I went to Eastern Junior, remember, so I lived in the Valley. I'm a Valley boy.
So am I.
Get it straight.
Roll Avenue, the Valley. You've been more Valley than me.
Authentic Valley boy.
All right, sir.
Born and bred. So I had to walk home, sit at the dining table, complete the application form, create a facsimile of my father's signature, create a facsimile of my father's signature, and yes, I'll do confession on Saturday before I take communion on Sunday. Yes, I created a facsimile because I couldn't forge that.
But Daddy had to sign it.
Yeah,
so you had to.
He was the only parent in the house.
You had to create it. That's
I had to create a facsimile
because the signature needed to be there.
And it's almost lunchtime. My history class has been done. Long time I didn't miss the class after history because I really want to spill something on this application form so nobody anyhow leave.
You really didn't want to go then.
Med school, you don't hear me. Track scholarship, you ain't hearing me.
Yeah, but so your track scholarship was already in place
for the following year.
Okay, so you had 2 scholarships now.
No, when I told my father about the track scholarship, he says, nobody makes money from running up and down. You take that scholarship, I'm going to break your leg.
Oh, gee. And you done gone on the dock with him and see the ships.
Oh, praise him. Anyhow, cutting to the chase, there were 25 applicants, and the Navios flew the admissions director from SUNY Maritime to Nassau to personally conduct the interviews.
Navios had some power.
U.S. Steel. You didn't hear me when they said...
Oh, yes, you did say U.S. Steel.
Okay. Oh, okay. And the admissions director kept saying, when you come to the school, when you... I said, excuse me, sir. No.
You was already in.
But I didn't realize that.
Okay.
And I said, excuse me, no, I don't meet the admission requirements. He says, oh, yes. There is this one thing of your age.
Right, because he was quite young.
I was too young.
Because you started school too young.
Well, you can't blame me for that. They still held me back in Eastern Junior.
And plus you passed the common entrance.
And I passed for 2 other
smart.
schools to SAC. Didn't even want me. I passed for SAC.
Wow.
They turned me down. I wasn't Catholic. But anyhow, I was awarded the scholarship.
Beautiful.
And because I was quite young, Navios figured that they will not send me there alone. And the late Larry Francis, who was employed at Navios at the time,
right,
it was decided that Navios would then send two students, gave 2 scholarships.
Okay, beautiful.
So Dame Doris Johnson was quite happy.
Yeah, they ain't let the politicians talk, but them bad no more.
And Larry and I were the 2 first Bahamians.
Wow.
To attend SUNY Maritime.
I was going to say, because SUNY had a litany of people after that.
Of course.
But y'all would have been the very 2 first.
The very, very first
wow.
2. And since we graduate alphabetically, that's a singular distinction.
You was number 1.
Of course, I am the first SUNY grad.
Cletus.
Yes, and Francis is F.
Yeah. He was kind of close, but he was still behind you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was still, and I owe Mrs. Rogers a debt of gratitude because when I took the application form back to her, well, I must admit too that Mrs. Rogers, whenever there was a scholarship opportunity, she submitted my name without my knowledge and just told me when the interview was.
Okay.
And the United World College Scholarship interviews were like 2 weeks prior.
Right.
And they were looking for a female that year because all the other scholarship recipients were male. And there's some stories about that interview. I was literally the last candidate to be interviewed.
Okay.
And someone who was in the interview room says, oh my God, we'd already made up our mind. I could say it now, we'd already made up our minds by the time you came in the room because we had to have a girl. But when you came in that room, everybody just stood up and took notice. So I always had that ability to interview well, I suppose.
Okay. Well, but DJHS, yeah.
Mrs. Rogers had taken the liberty of writing a reference for me. I was Key Club, choir, 4 sports teams, captain of 2 while I was in government. I was also in Boy Scouts. So I had the well-roundedness that they were looking for. But the famous last words from the late Mrs. Anatole Rogers, when I gave her back the application form, reluctantly kicking and stomping. And she says, Clayton, what is it going to hurt? I said, what do you mean, Mrs. Rogers? It's only an application. What is it going to hurt you just to apply? Now give this to me.
You have nothing to lose by applying.
Exactly.
You even ain't paying to apply.
And they called her and told her I had the scholarship before they told me. She announced it in front of the whole school assembly.
But that made you a star, eh?
No, I used to run track. I was a star before then. Okay. All right, let's get that right. The 1 and 2.
But was it fully paid?
They redefined what a full ride scholarship was. And I'll say this much. I am so generous and liberal with my time and mentoring, whether it's in the church, in the community, or in academia. Because not only did I go to GHS on a scholarship, the only thing my father paid for my undergraduate degree was my first pair of glasses and my graduation ring.
Wow.
My scholarship included tuition, books, room and board, 2 round-trip tickets home a year in case I got homesick. Wow. Plus a little change because they don't want me in New York City.
You had a stipend also?
Oh, I had a stipend.
So you was blinging?
I wasn't blinging. I was conservative. I brought most of that money back home.
Oh, you saved some of the money.
But, no, that And like Mrs. Rogers said, what can it hurt to
Yeah.
apply?
That sounds like a scholarship you
If
really
I
want.
had taken the track scholarship and gotten injured, there goes
Right.
that scholarship.
That's true.
Being the 10th child of a truck driver
Right.
does not spell medical school.
Well, not,
It does, but
not-
who's going to pay?
Yes, it's gonna be a hefty cost.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And like my father said on his deathbed when he was saying, look, I really wish you'd become a doctor. I said, yeah, but who was going to pay? He says, no, bills can work something out. But
he was been paying back then.
oh yeah, but that was it, and I see it as divine providence.
What about the second person?
Larry Francis.
Larry. What,
We both followed the same path. We both had ocean-going careers.
Right.
But Larry suddenly got, well, not suddenly, but he got ill sometime
Oh, wow.
shortly after.
Oh,
and he met his demise, and I still got to apologize to Joanne, his widow.
Right.
Larry's funeral was just 4 days after my father's.
Oh,
and I just could not.
handle that right there.
I
That's so sad.
It was bad enough at my father's funeral. They had to call ambulance for me because I passed out in the graveyard, and they thought they was going to throw me in the hole same time.
Of course.
Yeah, although my father and I had challenges when I was a teenager. I still have all my
later.
teeth because I was able to duck when that backhand slap was coming. But he and I didn't see eye to eye when I was a teenager.
Right.
Because
But eventually you
no, I realized because he went through this ritual, old New Year's Eve, that he called all of his children in sequence. And he'd call the oldest first, and you go and call the next one. And chronologically,
he went through everybody.
he went through, and it was a one-on-one session. And there were always only two questions. Have I said or done anything to you during this year that still bothers you or upsets you? And you got it off your chest, but you spoke first. Then he would say, now let me tell you what you did or said this year that really got... So we had this thing to go and purge.
Right.
And we did, that's right, every New Year we went in with a clean slate. But when Daddy was doing his mea culpas and going through, he knew the end was near. And we talked about why I didn't take a particular career path.
Right.
And I said to him back then, and I just didn't see a clearer path. And when someone's going to give you a full ride scholarship that includes 2 round trip tickets home a year, so you can come and see your family.
Right. Can't be done.
Oh,
I mean, I would think that when you first got the scholarship, he would have thought, well, that's a good thing too. That he didn't have to pay for you to be coming home.
no, he didn't think it was a good thing. There's another quick story. I never told my father about the application because then I would have to explain how I was able to create a facsimile of his signature.
Well, that's another thing.
So I could not bring that up.
Okay.
'Cause that's another cut hit.
Yeah.
That's not the way I raised you. Transparency, integrity, well,
Can't bypass anything. Yeah.
Ask anyone of the Curtis boys. And
So
there
who
was
would have gotten that?
7 of us, 7 boys, 3 girls, just
plenty.
like Joe.
That's the 10, yeah.
That's the 10. So,
Okay.
yeah, there were certain character traits that we dare not acquire.
and cross
That's
the
why
line
he
on
moved
that,
us out of St. James Road. Too many external influences.
Yeah.
So I will have had to explain to my father who signed the application form. So being led by the Spirit, oh praise him. Being led by the Spirit, one night at the dinner table, I said to him, Daddy, I think I need to mention something to you. He says, yeah, what are you talking about? There's some people who came by our school and they talked about this, that, and the other thing. And I had an interview at this office on Village Road.
Right.
And I think they're looking at sending me off to the school. I know Bahamians never been to this school before, so there's nobody I could talk to. I don't know nothing much about it, but I just figured I'd bring you into the picture.
Yeah.
And the Guardian carried the story the next morning. Navios Award scholarships.
So that saved you.
That saved me. The only thing was I didn't get totally saved because when it was in the Guardian, everybody said, Mr. Brother Curtis, and this your boy? What are you going to study? And he had no clue.
Wow.
So I still got it.
You didn't really have a clue either. I mean, who knows?
Exactly.
You didn't
yeah.
know what maritime was all about.
No. I was the pioneer.
So who else would have gotten that scholarship from Navios? Because they closed down years
Subsequent?
later. Yeah.
Larry Francis and I were the first, and then Arnold Wood, who was in Freeport. Arnold was the engineer.
Okay.
Navios awarded those 3 scholarships. Equinor, when they were Statoil, also awarded some scholarships because the persons that Equinor sponsored came in as freshmen my senior year.
Came into Sony.
Yes,
Okay.
and
But
along
Barco was doing some sponsorship back then too.
Borco came just after Equinor, and the
Oh.
government also sent the late Don Archer, who was with the
Yes,
Ministry of
Don Archer.
Transport.
I worked with him before. He
Yes,
passed on.
so,
very good guy, very knowledgeable.
Greg,
So Don would have gone on a government scholarship to Sony.
Don got the government scholarship. The
beautiful.
other two guys, Emmett Smith and Greg Hamilton,
Right.
got the Equinor scholarships.
Okay.
So there were 5 of us, and then Arnold, Navio sent Arnold before we. So there were 6 of us in the school at that one time.
So I have a question, and you is the person, the most appropriate person I would think to answer this. My good friend, there was a female that went there, the first female,
First Bahamian female?
the first Bahamian female that went to Sony.
Miss Malcolm, I think.
No,
It wasn't Miss Malcolm?
Judith Francis. Do you know Judith Francis?
Yeah,
She
I know.
also worked in Navios, yeah?
Yes, she was.
Do you know that she went to Sony?
But it was not as an undergraduate.
Well, I thought once you go to Sony,
No,
she went to do a master's.
It's graduate. In fact,
She already had a degree there.
certain PhD students come to our campus
Oh.
for classes.
Uh-huh.
But at that time, if you had attained the age of 28 years, if you were going to be 28 or older than 28 as a first class cadet, you couldn't come into the school.
Right.
And don't forget, it was all male at the time.
Right. So when Miss Francis comes, she would probably been one of the first females.
She was doing graduate work, I'm almost certain, because...
But even if you're doing grad school there, does it make a difference as far as
grad
scholarship?
students are on weekends because it's a regimented environment.
Oh, only on weekends?
The regiment of cadets took charge from 0700 on Monday until 1600 on Friday. Rank
Okay.
has its privileges, and the ranker you are, the more privileges you get.
Oh,
so there was a very, very clear-cut, distinct class structure.
Right.
No room for fraternities. Sir, but men and officers must obey no matter what cost to their feelings. For obedience to orders, instant and unhesitating, is not only the lifeblood of armies, but the security of states.
Is it
And the
still that way
doctrine
at Sony?
And the doctrine that whatever conditions deliberate disobedience can be justified is treason to the Commonwealth. Sir, you're taught that on the first day.
Wow.
Do not forget it.
But they don't do that no more, eh?
Men and officers must obey. If you're a 4th classman, you are a mug.
Oh.
And mug on campus is something derogatory. But it's an acronym for a maritime undergraduate.
Oh.
Yeah.
They used to call us outs when I was at Dartmouth. OUTS, officers under training. And out.
No, we were mugs.
You were mugs.
And
You were worse than us.
There was something that I cannot say on air about mugs and the whales.
Okay, so we talk a lot about Sony. Now let's get to BMCC. I'm going to open the lines in a minute. Boy, because you believe an hour and gone. We only got 28 minutes left.
I could believe that.
And you asked me if we could do an hour and a half.
You've gone from high school to now.
College, yeah.
All my career in the middle there at sea and the port management.
Unfortunately, we got to go straight to BMCC
Oh,
now.
yeah, because that's what you bring me here for.
Well, I mean, you could come back. We could talk about the rest of them. Ain't no limit as to how much times you come on the show, you know.
Oh, okay.
So let's just get a little bit of BMCC before we take a break and open the lines.
Sure.
So BMCC. How do you think your SUNY experience impacted your life, and does any of it directly contribute to your leading the BMCC today?
It's a direct correlation.
Okay.
Going to SUNY, there were several things. I'll try not to spend too much time on this, but I'll start by using a line from the gentleman who was president of Navios Corporation at the time, Mr. Colombari. He said, "We expected you to have come back with better grades." Because I did well enough at GHS to have earned the scholarship.
Right.
And they were expecting the same high-flying academic achievement.
Once you got to SUNY.
Once I got to SUNY. And not that I did not have the acumen to do it.
Right.
But I said to Mr. Colombari, and he had no answer for my statement. I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Colombari, but I no longer look at education as just A's and B's. I left here as a naive, mid-teenage island boy.
Right.
And I have returned a global cosmopolitan. I have been exposed culturally, academically, and spiritually. And the little boy who left here 4 years ago is not the young man sitting in front of you right now. If you wanted an honor student, you should have stipulated that.
Yeah.
When you awarded the scholarship.
Then you would know what to focus on.
But I have grown so much
Right.
in the years that I spent at SUNY that no amount of classroom instruction could begin
Could
to
replace
equate.
that. Right.
Including
Couldn't
almost-
even equate to it.
Including almost marrying that Jewish girl. Did I say that? Yeah.
Bless him, bless him.
Yeah, praise him. So let's go back to the Maritime Cadet Corps now.
Yeah.
My time at SUNY is a direct correlation with the Maritime Cadet Corps, and that's why I said I'm so freely giving back. Because prior to coming into New Providence as the national coordinator,
Right.
I was an instructor in Grand Bahama for 10 years.
Oh, with the BMCC?
BMCC.
Oh, so you already was affiliated from Grand Bahama?
And you only get gas money when you're
Well,
an
you get a
instructor.
stipend. You get
No, stipend. That's a big word.
Oh, gas
You get
money.
Gas money.
Okay.
When you're an instructor. My other instructors, but no, I empathize with them. But you only teach 4 hours a week.
Oh,
2 hours
wow.
on Tuesday and 2 hours on Thursday. But
That's all they doing now, so eh?
yeah, I know. And that's why most of the instructors either have other jobs or...
Right.
So I found when I started teaching the BMCC in Freeport
Right.
that most, if not all, of the instructors nationwide in the program were current or former RBDF.
Like me, yes.
So they had the military strain
Of course.
and did not have the merchant marine
No,
training.
we wouldn't have that.
And you're preparing kids for the merchant marine.
Correct.
And not taking anything from what they were receiving presently. But I think I brought a different twist, a different flair, a different flavor, different training material and experiences.
Yeah.
And again, for gas money. And that's where I feel I'm most beneficial to the BMCC. Because now
Right.
I am in the process of using my SUNY training,
Your commercial maritime
my
experience.
commercial maritime experience, academic and professional.
Right.
And I am upgrading the manuals, the training manuals.
Very good. Yeah.
And the subject areas that were not previously covered, I'm including areas that the other instructors may even feel uncomfortable about. I will go in and teach because
Right.
they too must learn before they can teach it.
Because you're talking again about the defense force that really doesn't have to apply with any IMO convention and all the rest of that good stuff.
They're national security, so they comply with national security
Yeah,
regulations.
they're like a navy.
Exactly.
Yeah, they don't. The commercial requirements don't apply to the navies.
Exactly.
To the armed forces.
So that's where I think my biggest link between my academic background and what I presently do.
Yeah, and I think you come highly prepared for this job, knowing what I know about your background. But there seemed to be a problem in the BMCC as far as I know that some students have come to me after going through that program, going off to whether it be Holland College or wherever else and they couldn't get berths on board ships. When they came back home, nobody could have linked them with a ship as a job, although they were certified.
The singular, and me personally, the very top of my priority list
Right.
is to reduce the time between the classroom and setting foot on board the ship.
But when these people are certified now, because I know a good handful of Bahamians who got certified, but for some reason nobody was able to. Because we had one, I think, crewing agency here, right? Aquamarine, and Aquamarine focused primarily on Campbell shipping operation because that's what they had at their disposal or their exposure. They were able to get. And they did a very good job, in my opinion, getting Bahamians on those Campbell ships. But outside of that, if they have all the berths completed in the Campbell ship, they couldn't help nobody. But they couldn't help nobody.
And it was in a rotation, so if you did one
Yes.
contract...
So
with
what are we
Campbell-
going to do about that problem in particular
got
all of these
I've
hundreds
got
of students?
several irons in the fire. Things I'm not at liberty to talk about presently because they've not been
To fruition.
birthed yet.
Okay.
They've not come to fruition.
Right.
But that is one of the key things that troubles me. We're one of the top top ship registration countries in the world, in the IMO.
Yes.
And
we have over 1,500 ships on our flag.
we need to put Bahamians on board those ships. there may have been perceived or actual stumbling blocks, but well, like I said, two sides to this coin. There may have been, because we train persons to become officers, and there are...
Wait, you mean your program,
Yeah.
officers only?
Not just officers only,
Oh.
but the end result is for you to become an officer of the watch.
Why not a rating?
No, you start out as a
part of
rating.
watch?
You start out as a rating and work your way up.
Right, so you train them to be ratings also.
Yes, they come out of
Some
our
people,
program.
some people are just. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Some people are not going to be at the management level.
Exactly, but one of the goals of the BMCC is to get the young Bahamians to where they feel comfortable. We have a young lady who's the chief engineer who came through our program.
I know. I've met her and I've had her on the show.
Precisely.
Well, I don't know if she's the only one, but I certainly had one of them on the show.
We have persons who've gone as far as
Chief mate.
Second mate, we've got chief mate with
on cruise ships.
Yeah,
that's right.
Precisely. So if that is your end goal, then fine. If you're interested in not going all the way there, then things that you learn in the BMCC and the exposure you get post high school would get you to where you want to go in the industry.
But the problem is getting on board a ship once you're certified. As a rating.
That's where some of the challenges
a big problem.
are.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, the coin has two sides, whereby there may be challenges because don't forget, seamen aren't paid all that well.
Well, they paid very well when you look at the fact that they have no expenses while they're on board the ship.
Okay, there are perks.
Yes.
But in the mindset of the average Bahamian, he equates salary on board ship with salary made ashore. And there is the dichotomy.
But we need when you have a group, because I was, when Dudley Martinborough started up the BMCC,
2004.
I was working with the Bahamas Maritime Authority as a senior nautical inspector. I was the person doing all the presentations. And Dudley can tell you this. And I would tell them, you see, because I knew at that time, and I still know today, that we have a fleet of ships in the Bahamas. Back then the name was the small tankers, marine tankers, right?
Marine tankers, yeah.
They have a different name now, but we still refer to them as marine tankers. Marine tankers have a slew of Bahamian ratings that are happy to be ratings. They're happy with the salary they make and all the rest of it.
But let's look at the others.
Because they're saving money every time they're on a ship.
The ones who want to matriculate through the officer ranks. You must realize that once they would have finished their high school and post-high school training, they are apprentices. And when you mention the apprentice word,
right?
How many apprentice jobs do you know in any trade that pays at a particular high rank?
Well, the thing is, when you're 19, 20 years old, right? Not many jobs in this country you can go on and make a big salary. Not many jobs in this country you can go where they would feed you 3 meals a day.
And
you will be seeing the world. And you will be getting overalls and stuff to wear. And your money that you make sits there until you get home.
Exactly.
So there's no comparison.
No. But we've had Bahamian cadets walk off ships because they were homesick. You heard homesick.
Not only Bahamian, you had American cadets do the same thing.
Exactly. So that's the part of the other side of the
we are focusing on the
coin.
ones who cannot go home because they're homesick, because when they go home, they got bills they can't pay, they got to help their parents, they got to help their brothers and sisters. And there are so many of those that we need. Let's look at the ones who need jobs, not who wants jobs.
The ones when they were waiting to be assigned to Campbell or any of the other shipping companies, when your parent says, I need help with these bills, you need to go out and find a job.
Yeah.
So that's what they do. Not that we did not get around to it. We've got a list of companies, or there was a list of companies that were available to assist in birthing. And then we had cadets who knew that they were supposed to be on board for 4 months, and after 7 months don't want to come off.
Yeah, I'm saying you have extremes.
Yeah, there are
but
extremes.
let's stick with the middle now.
But
let's stick with the ones who don't have a problem with this career, but can't find a ship.
We don't have enough berths available for them. And
we
got
to work on that.
That's one of the things that's top on my priority list.
Yeah, because I've always been telling people that we have the interest, because we have hundreds of students in the program, and we have the training.
We've graduated more than 3,000
The only thing we need now is the berths.
Exactly.
Some are going to fall down by the wayside, of course. But if we can get the berths, we can increase. And we'll have more Bahamians out there working. And you get some people who don't even want to go home to their house.
I know.
Because they got to share bed or they got to sleep on the ground. And being on one of these big ships, you got so much food, you got so much space, especially the cargo ships.
One of the, and this was prior to my taking the chair, but one of the significant achievements that has happened recently was with the inter-island vessels, who assist us tremendously.
Yes,
with berths.
From day one.
But the cadets were not given one-for-one sea time.
Well, the reality is, what kind of sea time are you going to get on a mailboat going on a fixed route once a week? You're not going to get much out of that.
But
and plus, you don't have certified people on those mailboats to train them anything, to teach them anything.
But sea time is
no.
It's
important to get seasick.
Qualitative time.
Yeah, but you need to do something where people can point you out on things and show you things
so
and help
we need
you.
to elevate the quality of.
And the mailboat is not going to do that.
Precisely.
Right.
So, but if you want to get sea time, and which rules govern the navigable waters of the Bahamas? They're not inland rules. If the international rules govern the navigable waters of the Bahamas, and if it's 120 miles between here and Grand Bahama and 130 miles from here to Miami, how come someone going to Miami gets full-time sea time?
Because
someone going to Grand Bahama is not getting that?
Your certification is for the international voyages, right?
But international rules govern the waters of the Bahamas?
No, I say international voyages. It's different.
Okay.
SOLAS do not apply to domestic voyages.
But
and if you want a certification to get on board to serve on a SOLAS ship, you need to qualify for SOLAS ship by going on SOLAS ships.
Exactly.
Or SOLAS voyages.
When I come back from my international voyages, and there's a berth on board a mailboat where I can gain some lift-on, lift-off experience, which I didn't get on my bulk carrier or my containerized ship.
You're a deck officer like me,
yes.
Right? The voyages you do within the Bahamas compared to an ocean-going voyage.
They're not.
It's like night and day.
No comparison.
So let's stick to trying to get them
until you can
exposed.
get on that international voyage.
But that's why we need to let's try and get them on the international voyage, just like other countries do.
No, not other countries. Because if it's a flagship, we only can go. We can't go Canadian. We can't go American. We can't go British.
I say international.
Yeah, I know.
We can go international.
But when you talk about getting their nationals on their ships.
No, I'm not saying on their ships. I'm talking about their
the
institutions.
Yeah, the institutions.
They don't necessarily use their ships.
And the BMCC is elevating its training.
Very good.
And we will be comparable to or exceed what these students get at the high school level.
But anything I could do to help with that, I mean,
use your millions to buy a couple of ships and we can use it as a training.
If you can give me some millions to do that with, I'm happy to, right? But I'm saying to you, I have a lot of experience, and I'll be happy to wean in on some of the. What I would like to see is the same thing you'd like to see. I'd like to see Bahamians having berths. Once they have the certification.
On the same page with that, and we don't have to beat that horse to death.
No, we don't have to.
But it is, and I said that is my number one priority, so that when you're finished your training, you don't have to spend an inordinate amount of time before you're placed on a ship.
I agree.
And
so we haven't gotten to the actual program yet, right?
No.
And I know we ain't have time because you need to come back next week. Well, not next week because I got my next guest, but maybe the week after. But man, you got to finish this, right? Because we ain't touch it yet. But Clayton, right now, let me let you hold your horses because we got to rush to a break, a very short break, right?
Yeah.
And when we come back, we open the line because we even ain't letting the callers call in yet. We end up. I'm sure you can have one or two calls, but
let them know when I'll be back and let them write their questions down.
Well, that's all right. We want them to ask what they want to ask if they could now. If not, maybe you could just keep on going on because this is some good stuff. This is a long time coming, and I'm so happy that you was able to grace us with your presence.
And because we're on air, you know how passionate I can get.
Well, that's two of us. You got two passionate people about maritime.
And the thing that irks me most.
Yes.
And I'm not getting political or anything, but I don't understand why Bahamian companies with Bahamian registered ships are not mandated to take.
No, I don't know if we have an open registry. I don't know if we want to go down that line. But we could talk a little bit more about that after the break. But
strongly suggest or encourage them.
This is what was being done previously by, I could tell you, the Honorable Glennis Anna Martin. I know of which he was doing to try and make this happen, right? But of course, government changes, and the agenda changes with government. But I don't think that in the political stream of things, the ministers of transport don't want this to happen. I'm just saying that
you mentioned more than who's more passionate than you.
But I'm just saying that we need to put something in place that transcends politics.
I know that's what I'm working on. I am approaching organizations and companies and negotiating. I've already spoken. We've got students going off again next month. Some are going to the local school, and some are going to schools outside of the country. Okay. And I've already started speaking to people. I've given them names.
We got 10 minutes left, right?
I've said, I'm looking for so many berths.
Right.
So that when these students return, after they've had one bowl of cow salad and they need some pea soup and they kiss their ma, then they get on board the ship.
Well, you're the man for the job, and I'm so happy I'm hearing this from you. But let's take a pen and take a quick break here. Boy, I don't know if we can get onto no oil spilling, and well, obviously we wouldn't get onto oil spilling and the lives lost in that tragic sinking. But let's just move to the break real quick, and we'll be right back and open the lines. We should open it a little while ago, but boy, I don't know if you open the lines tonight at all, Clayton. You can cause my show, don't have no open line, but we can open the lines as soon as we come back.
We can't plead the fifth because that's an American. They must like to use it, but it's an American Constitution they quote that don't apply.
Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
And welcome back, people. We are on Maritime Matters. My good guest tonight, Mr. Clayton Curtis, a maritime extraordinary. I thought he was an engineer, but he told me he's deck like me. Clayton and I go way back. He's a really good guy, really, as you can see, very knowledgeable. We're going to keep it rolling, Brother Clayton. And
I need to make one correction going back to the SUNY days. I mentioned that Arnold had come in while Larry and I were seniors. That was not the case. Larry and I graduated in May, and Arnold entered in the fall, in September of the same calendar year.
Same year. But you didn't meet at the same time. He was in India while you were there.
Arnold was a Navios employee.
Oh,
okay, when Larry and I graduated, we went on U.S. Steel ships.
Right. Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
So you really had it pan right out for you. I mean,
well, listen, I've got 26 countries under my belt.
Oh, well, I'm fooling with you. You're bigger than me, because I actually Defense Force fellow. Yeah, I got some countries
Arnold was also the first engineer. So
wow.
The Greg and Emmett were, and Don
yeah.
all deck officers like Larry and myself.
Right.
And Arnold came in as...
So that was the only engineer up to that point.
Yeah, but Arnold, Larry and I graduated in the spring, and Arnold entered in the fall of that year.
Okay. I think, producer, we got the lines open. The lines are now open, people. Our line to call in is 326-8255. Again, 326-8255. We got Maritime Extraordinaire, Mr. Clayton Curtis. He's in charge of Bahamas Maritime Cadet Corps at this time, and he's doing big things. As you, if you're following, you'll know. And I'm so happy to have him here to bless our show. Obviously, we got to bring him back because time is winding down. So before we go any further, Clayton, you got some good people in your organization at the office level. Killer Sands, these Defense Force guys. Brother Hannah, how many of them you got there, and who are they?
All of the instructors, like I said, are either current, and New Providence, definitely.
Right.
We have one or two on other islands that may not have been Defense Force officers, but in New Providence, the two that you mentioned, don't say Killer Sands, give the man his name.
Kenneth.
He knows he's the killer man.
Well, all of us know. That man sailed years together with me. And let me tell you something. You don't want a better seaman
Kenneth Sands.
than Kenneth Sands.
Kenneth Sands is the assistant.
He killed it.
He's the assistant coordinator.
Yes,
and
very good.
In the office, it's just three of us in the office. The other one is Wade Hannah.
Yes,
the three of
very
us.
Good friend of mine too. Sailed together.
The instructors are...
That's a prophecy guy.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
he's a Hannah from Ackland's Crooked Island.
Indeed.
Say amen.
Yes, sir. Amen.
My ma, don't forget. And we have Keith Smith, who is the only...
Oh, Keith is still there?
The only engineering
Well, he was there
instructor.
from the beginning.
Yes.
Keith is awesome. I mean, he was a very, very... He's the BMCC, if you ask me. Because from it started, man, I mean...
Paul Miller with Mr. Martinborough.
Well, it was Paul Miller, it was Leroy Stretch Wiley.
The
late, yes, I was at his funeral. And it was Addington Cox. And these were people that I knew very well. And
I was in primary school back then.
I actually introduced them to Mr. Martinborough.
Good.
Because they all worked with me in my organization. Yeah. And they were all retired Defense Force, I mean, top of the line Defense Force officers.
Well, we have Anthony Hanna.
Right.
Who is still there. And Cyril Morris, former RBDF, who's now an educator.
Oh, yes,
who just got
he was
his
a
law
teacher
degree.
even before he... Oh, okay. Yeah. Cyril Morris is now very good. You got some really good people.
He getting called to the bar. I just tell him to make sure it's in the right neighborhood, and they have what I need.
Have what you want to drink.
What I need.
Okay.
But then we have Wade Hanna teaches the 10th grade students, 11th grade students as well, and Gavin Dean.
Yes, Gavin Dean. He's a little younger than those guys. I mean, as far as
he's still
time in Defense Force.
He's still
yes. Very good. And I met him. He's a very good guy.
Generally, the assistant coordinator or the coordinator would also instruct the 12th grade, so that's where Kenneth Sands is now instructing with the 12th grade students. In Grand Bahama, we have Erica Roberts, a former RBDF.
She was there from day one, I think.
Yeah.
For the Grand Bahama cadre.
No, I was alone when I first started.
Oh, was this you?
Yeah, it was just me one.
Okay.
And I took the 12th grade students one day and the 10th and 11th grade students the other day.
So Kevin Miller's
Miller's no longer with us.
Oh, okay.
But Kevin came in next, and Kevin would then take the 10, and I'd take the 11th and 12th graders.
Right.
One on Tuesday, one on Thursday. And then Erica joined us as the third member of our team. Then Erica had the 10th, Kevin had the 11th, and I took the 12th graders.
So what about my good friend Lorna Maxis? She had a little bit to do with assisting in the BMCC.
Lorna
and
is
as well.
Currently one of our instructors.
Right.
Lorna,
you gotta leave my good friend out now. You know, Lorna is the first Bahamian female to be able to drive an unlimited size ship from the ocean into Freeport Harbor and put it on the dock.
She's a pilot. She's a damn good
She
one.
was the first. You ain't hearing me.
I hear. Excuse me, before Lorna she was in my office asking me how I could get into this industry when I was with the Freeport Harbor Company.
Yes, I know. Well, I was asking you too, and you ain't giving me no job.
She's slightly prettier than you are.
Indeed.
But I know Lorna from the beginning of her career. But Lorna is there. Chantel Adley, a former BMCC.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Chantel, and she went to Maine Maritime Academy.
Oh, she didn't go to SUNY.
Dual deck and engine.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Wait. You mean deck? What they call it when you're doing the engineering as well? There's a name for it. I can't remember it right now.
I know it as being dual major.
No. I can tell you what it is. But I remember soon. But why we only got 2 minutes left? Wow, only 2 minutes. Clayton. Now you gotta come back. You gotta come back. Well, I want to know, but your instructors are very important for that program.
I know, of course.
And I gotta pick up my Defense Force people. Plus Lorna's my good friend.
Grand Bahama.
Oh, who's that? We want to call him out.
The name going jump out of my head. Ralph. What Ralph's last name is?
Sanders.
Yes, Ralph Sanders.
Yeah, he trained under me. Very good. Very sharp. A good navigation instructor for years.
There's something about Le Creme de la Creme.
Ralph trained under me. He got to be good.
There is something about Le Creme de la Creme. Do all you want. Good cream will make its way to the top.
Oh, but guess what? When you talk about that dual engineering, it's called QMED.
Yes.
Qualified member of the engineering department. But you're a deck.
Yes.
I know, because I got to know some of these things.
Oh.
But not many deck officers want to go that route because it's so hard. So she did extremely well. What's her name? I met her. Slim, small. I met her because she worked with the pilots on Anchorage now. Yeah. Yeah. Very nice girl. Yeah. I met her.
Good volleyball player.
Oh, she plays volleyball too?
Oh.
Okay, that's excellent. So, Clayton, you get 1 minute to say hello to whoever you need to say hello to outside of the people that we already talk about.
That list is long.
Well, I can get you in trouble tonight.
No. I will say that with the exception of my parents, Keith and Mabel Mason.
Yes, sir.
Because...
You have siblings?
Oh, well, no, it's 10 of them, no, 3 than that, but that list is long.
Yes, sir.
But I must tell you, when the BMA had a conference in Grand Bahama,
Right.
and I mentioned the late Alfred Alexander Williams, morning, Aunt Nita. And I thought that when I gave kudos to the Masons, I was still on air, and they'd already cut me. And I had to face my parents, and Daddy said, well, Junior, what about us? So now, but the Masons have also been a very strong stabilizing force in my life. I cannot leave people out like Mr. Maitland Cates, who was my scout master.
Very good.
In the first Bahamas Sea Scouts. And when, just before the GHS days, when I was very close to that line.
Okay.
Because I was never street smart, always somewhat naive and
You
trusting.
grew up in St. James Road and wasn't street smart?
Michael Curtis was in your part. You better be inside that house.
Okay.
Guys that I used to hang with are either in jail or dead. I could say that with a clear conscience.
That's Camp Road, yeah.
And Mr. Cates was my scout master.
Okay.
And when I joined the first Bahamas Sea Scouts, that
kind of saved you from all of that.
Yeah,
that's very good.
It was pivotal because
Yes.
I've got Mrs. Anatole Rogers, Claire Hepburn, and
the whole
some teachers,
DGHS group,
and Bethel, Dr. Kevin Bethel, and persons like that. Oh, there were some people who poured into my. I got 7 men that I referred to as daddy at some point in my life. Some are still. I'm still referring to them as daddy, because they've poured into my life. And if ever I do an autobiography, in fact, I want my first book, if I do ever start writing and publishing, I want my first book to be Daddy and Me, Mentoring 101. Right. And I'm going to do a biographical sketch of those 7 men, including Dudley Martin Murray. He's one of the 7.
Yeah, oh yeah. And I don't think we talk enough about Dudley. Him starting up this organization. Yeah, well, I know he's been having some challenges, and you know, Dudley and I were very, like I say, we basically started up together because he grabbed me and he took me along with him, and I did all the presentations and got this thing off the ground because he was so shocked to see so many people coming in so early, but they really loved. They understood what was in those presentations and how they could go there and make
Clyde
money.
Was sadistic.
Clyde.
I came out of the shipyard in Rotterdam in February. That's winter North Atlantic.
Wow. Clyde Bethel was there.
The sailing orders we got was to go and load in South Africa. And I couldn't wait for the time to meet Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela and to cross the other side of town in Johannesburg.
Wow, you did all that?
No, I didn't, because in the English Channel, Clyde Bethel looked over at Dudley Martin Murray, and I can hear it sadistically in my head right now.
Oh, they were on board the ship with you?
No. Dudley was chartering and Clyde was scheduling.
Oh, okay.
And Clyde would say, Dudley, where Clayton is now.
Yeah.
And he would say such and such and such. So we were one of the 3 ships that U.S. Steel Navios had with an ice-reinforced bow.
Okay.
And they
so it's like an icebreaker.
They changed our instructions from loading in South Africa to loading in Port Cartier, Canada. The St. Lawrence River is frozen.
Wow. So they had to break through the ice to get there.
No. It's the weather. I saw my entire life flash in front of me when we're in ballast, so the bridge is 60 feet up out of the water, and that wave went over
the bridge. Oh.
The captain called the bridge and said, "Excuse me, mate, what was that you just hit?" I said, "Excuse me, sir, it wasn't what I just hit. It's what hit us. That was water."
Wow. So that's great. But look here, Clayton, you got to promise me you're going to be back.
Promise? Okay.
Please, because you know we only scrape an ice on the BMCC.
There's several.
You got a very interesting past, and there's so much to talk that we have to have another show just to make sure get a lot out of you, because you have a lot to give. So I thank you for tonight's show and your inspirational contributions. And you notice the phone didn't ring. People want to hear you.
The one shout out I got to
go right ahead, because my producer's giving me an extra minute.
Yeah. There is a gentleman that refers to me as Mr. CBS.
Okay.
He didn't know what I did for a living until I put the stories about our graduation in the newspaper a couple of weeks back. And he says, "Boy, prior to that, I thought you were just a bull skater." So now the CBS is calling to him, I'm the chief bull skater. I want him to know that I do have a career.
Oh, that's what CBS said. Man, we got a store named CBS. I was wondering if there's somebody working CBS.
No, I'm the chief bull skater, and I know he's listening.
All right, now he knows. The chief bull skater is doing some big things.
Yeah, I actually have a life.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you for listening to our so exciting show tonight, and we're going to bring Mr. Clayton Curtis back so that you can get a chance to call in and really put questions to him. He's doing big things, and I want to thank him again for blessing our show Maritime Matters. And with that, I want to say, everybody take care of yourself. Good night, my good people. Maritime Matters out.